Was no bang in outer space, but there was a flash.
What would happen if the Earth suddenly increased its speed by 30%? Is this event recorded in the book of Revelations? Stay tuned and learn more.
Hi, I am Cyber Eva, your co-host on the Doc Speaks show on Intention Radio and on YouTube. Now here is Doc, a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness deep in cyberspace.
Thank you, Cyber Reva, for that wonderful introduction. This is the Doc Speak Show on YouTube, and I'm the Doc, a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness deep in cyberspace. And today we're going to be looking at a comment that Mark Taylor made about gloom and doomers. Now, he stated that God's in control, and God obviously is always really in control of everything. But he's making reference to the gloom and doomers who keep saying that the end is near, this is going to be the end of the world next week or next month. And he's making a comment about those people because that's deceiving, because what it does, it takes away from the army of God, thinking that the end is near, so there's no more any reason to pray and to fight this physical battle as well as the spiritual battle with prayer and with action on earth. So we have these gloom and doomers making these remarks that the end is near. Well, in a previous show, I made a comment about how I did some extensive research into the book of Revelation. And today I want to talk about one particular event that is in the book of Revelation that we need to discuss, because this event takes place before others. Now, some people seem to think that the Bible or the book of Revelation can be interpreted that the events can be at different places in different times. In other words, the seals could come between the trumpets, and the trumpets could come between the bowls, and the bowls could become before the seals. That's incorrect. That's incorrect, because God has an order. He doesn't do things in a chaotic manner. It doesn't do things in a chaotic manner. We can go to Genesis, and he does things in an order. And we saw that in the book of Genesis. On day 1 he did this, on day 2 he did this, on day 3 he did this, and so on and so forth. And that's the same thing that happens with the book of Revelations. The seals, first off, are opened on a document, on a scroll, that only Jesus can open. And when he opens each one of those seals, something happens. And you'll notice that the seventh seal, or the seventh trumpet, introduces the following concept. Seventh seal introduces the 7 trumpets, and so forth. So we know that there's an order to what God has in mind. But I want to deal with a specific event that comes before the bowls, because the bowls are the wrath of God, his judgment on earth, and now he brings the plagues. So before the plagues come, there's a series of events that take place. And I want to be talking about this one particular one because this one here would really make people either wake up or really fall asleep. So bear with me a moment while I share with you this one particular event. Now, before we go to that event, I want to share with you something from Revelations 12, verse 19. Then God's temple in heaven was open, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant. And there came flashes, lightning, rumblings, pearls of thunder, an earthquake, and severe hailstorm. End of quote. And we'll notice that this final sentence here appears after certain things come to an end. We always see earthquake and a severe hailstorm. But now what I want to mention here, and the reason why I bring this up, and this could create confusion, is that the scene here ends in heaven. And we're going to shift in chapters 13 and 14. We're going to come back to earth. So like in a good movie, we're going from one scene, we're going to cut, and we're going to go to the meanwhile. In other words, while this was happening, this is happening on earth. So these events are not jumping around. It's moving from a scene in heaven to a scene on earth. And there's these things going on simultaneously. Okay? So now we're going to go to chapter 15, and we're going to start with verse 5. After this I looked, and I saw in heaven the temple, that is, the tabernacle of the covenant law, and it was open. Out of the temple came the 7 angels with the 7 plagues. End of quote. So you see, the 7th trumpet sounds. John sees the temple in heaven, and he sees the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, and then we go to earth. In 15, we come back. John is looking at the temple again, and now he sees those 7 angels with the bowls coming out. So there's the continuality. There's the progress of one thing to another in a chronological order. So I want to make that clear, that events take place in a chronological order in order to emphasize what we are looking at in terms of what I'm about to mention. Here it is. Now, from the book of Revelations, chapter 8, verse 12, this is what the Lord told John to write. The 4th angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark. A third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. Well, this is end of quote. Now, a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark. Now that's a pretty impressive event. So that the sun, a third of the sun goes dark. Does that mean that the sun is reduced by a third? It says the third of the moon. Does that mean the moon is reduced by a third? Then there's the third of the stars. Well, a third of the stars suddenly go blank. So these things could all shrink down to a third. And that would be a pretty amazing event, wouldn't you say? But what about, so we have to speculate on how are we to interpret this mystery? See, because anybody, now we're going to get all kinds of people making comments about this, but how do we really know how that is supposed to be interpreted in terms of the sun? A third of the sun was struck. Now, what would happen if this took place? Let's suppose in Planet X that's coming by today, this supposedly coming by any day now, and it's going to destroy the planet. That's the Gloom and Doomers. And that's the end of the world. What if it passes by and it increases the torque on the Earth's or revolution? It's spinning on its axes. What would happen if it increased speed? Well, if it increased speed and it increased by 30%, then what would happen is the day would be reduced by a third. The night would be reduced by a third. And therefore, so would the stars. So our day would now become 16 hours. Is that a possibility? That, and if you check the law of physics, you will know that when you increase torque or reduce inertia, you increase speed. Either one of those two things will have an effect on speed. So here's a major event, whether somehow the sun shrinks or the moon shrinks or the stars disappear or the earth speeds up, something has to happen like that describes this particular passage in chapter 8, verse 12 of the book of Revelation. And this is during the fourth trumpet. Now, there were one before this that I also mentioned on a different show, that a fiery mountain would slide off into an ocean. That event hasn't taken place. So we have two major events that are catastrophic. One, a volcano sliding off into the ocean. And two, the amount of daylight reduced by a third. And this is before we even get to the bowls. This is before we get anywhere beyond the fourth trumpet. Now that's a pretty significant event, wouldn't you say? So how can we put all the other things ahead of this one? Think about that for a moment. Now here's a fourth possibility, and this goes along with chronological events. We've had an earthquake, rather we've had a volcano erupt, and a possible earthquake that takes the volcano, this mountain, and slides it down into the ocean. So there had to be some really powerful force to do that. And when that happens, it puts a lot of ash into the sky. And like in the nuclear explosion, that ash could be now, because of the jet streams, cover across the earth and become like a filter that reduces the sunlight from earth. And then there might be another possibility where something just becomes an obstruction in front of the sun and in front of the moon. So there are 5 and 6 possibilities of how this could happen. However, we know that one way or another, the sun will be reduced a third, the moon a third, and the stars a third. That is a given. We can only wait and see exactly how the Lord God does it. Now, let's just move to the next verse, 13, chapter 8, book of Revelations. And I quote, "As I watched, I heard an angel that was flying in midair call out in a loud voice, 'Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth because of the trumpet blasts about to be sounded by these 3 angels.'" Woe, woe, woe. End of my quote. We're talking about woe. Ooh, here it comes. Here it comes. See, these 3 angels, when they blow their trumpets, are beginning to sound the judgment, the wrath of God that's about to come upon these people. This comes after the sun is reduced by a third, the moon is reduced by a third, and the stars are reduced by a third. So we have an order here. There's an order. It doesn't go random. A lot of people want to use the Bible like it's a smorgasbord dinner and you pick and choose what you like. And then you point the finger at people who don't follow your methodology. Anybody can put together a series of comments and say, "Oh, this is what the Bible said because I took a verse from here, a verse from here, and a verse from here." But let's look at it like you're reading a novel from beginning to end. When you read a novel from beginning to end, you don't put the end in the middle and the middle in the beginning and the end and the middle in the front. You don't do that. You read it from the beginning and you go to the end. Well, the Bible's the same as a book. It's a series of books that are put together in an order because God has an order. He's not chaos. That's Satan's realm, chaos. God is orderly. So now we have an event that happens in the sky before an event that happens on earth with people. So the signs in the heavens are to let people know it's coming. And it's time to repent. And if you don't, you're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. So this is a very big sign. Now, whether the earth increases its speed around its axis or some other event, we're going to see a reduction in daylight. That's a given. How that happens, that's the mystery. Now, there you have it. We've covered a number of possibilities as to how the sun could be reduced by a third, the moon and the stars, and all of the suggestions that we've made or the given thought to may not be the actual one. God knows how he's going to do it, and we're going to be the audience that will witness the event. However, to get to the point of the gloom and doomers, the end of the world will not take place unless we've already seen a mountain on fire, a volcano, sliding off into the ocean, followed by another event where the sun is struck and reduced by a third. These are two major catastrophes that must take place. So, when you hear the media or somebody prophesizing that next week, next month, next year, the earth is going to come to an end, all this is going to happen, the Armageddon, the final war is going to begin, don't panic, don't get nervous. Just say to yourself, I haven't seen these two events yet. And that'll be a way for you to calm down and not to panic and worry. Because the signs in the sky have not taken place. Now, before I have some closing remarks on today's show, what I'd like to do is do a shout out for Regina Randowski, who's a nutritionist, and she can help you with your health. Now, I come from the standpoint of my philosophy, or my medical plan would be called Preventative instead of Obamacare or Trump care, Preventative. And the reason why I call it Preventative is because I believe, why do I have to have a insurance plan that only covers me when I get sick? Why do I have to get sick in the first place? I'd like something that keeps me well. I don't want to get sick. I don't know about you, but I don't like pain. So I met Regina Randowski, and she told me about her program. And her program, what it's designed to do is to keep you well. And if you are experiencing some kind of illness, it may even help to improve it. And the reason being is because her program looks at, and she's a nutritionist, her program looks at your white cell structure and how your body immune system is working for you. So if your immune system isn't working properly, the likelihood of you getting sick is now increased. So she looks at your vitamin levels, your enzymes, your elements, your all sorts of things as to what your body is deficient in. And once they find that out, then they're able to provide for you the proper nutrients to build your body back to a healthy level. So contact me at the DocSpeakShow@gmail.com. Once again, DocSpeakShow@gmail.com. Ask for Regina's information, and I'll be more than happy to provide that for you. So keep that in mind. If you're suffering from diabetes, or you have a fear of getting cancer because of your family history, or maybe you're suffering from some kind of mental disorder. And I'm not talking serious things, but you're having some issues. It could be because you have a vitamin, nutrient, or mineral deficiency. So contact me at the DocSpeakShow@gmail.com, DocSpeakShow@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to give you the information to contact her. And now for some closing remarks on today's show. Know one thing, that an event like this that gives us the 1/3 reduction in sunlight is definitely going to be a sign that will take place before the woes, before the following 3 trumpets sound, because John clearly specifies that after this happened, he sees an angel flying saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." So that's in order. So we know that this kind of an event has to take place. We also know that a mountain has to fall into the ocean while it's on fire. That's another major event. So when people start saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen, the end is coming next week or next month or next year, and we haven't seen this sign yet, then we know that that's a false prophecy. That whoever's spewing that is not telling the truth. Or, well, they could be telling the truth, but their timeline is off. Their timeline is off. Now, another statement by Mark Taylor was that when he got the prophecy that Donald Trump was going to become president on April 28th, 2011, he thought that it was going to be for the 2012 election. But it didn't happen, you see, because certain things had to take place. So he got the call, he got the message, but he himself thought it was going to be 2012, not 2016. So we have to be very careful on when we're trying to dissect prophecy and we're putting our own spin on it. We have to be very careful of that, especially in the book of Revelations that says that it comes with a blessing or a curse. So we have to be careful that we're not misinterpreting it or putting things out of context or out of place. But this is an event. How that event will take place, only God knows. We can speculate on how he might do it, but only God knows how he's going to do it. So, but we do know that there's going to be a reduction in light. There's going to be a reduction in sunlight, moonlight, and the stars, the light from the stars. So keep that in mind. Go look at chapter 8, verse 12 and 13, and continue along to read it for yourself and meditate on it and see what kind of spin, rather, what kind of thought makes you think of how that might take place. But we do know it will take place in some form. So we hope you tune in to our next YouTube broadcast. We hope that you subscribe to the show. We hope that you share the information with your friends and family. And until then, until the next time, God bless.